Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, good afternoon. So it's another Thursday. All right, last week we almost finished the discussion of unemployment, except for some practice problems. Of course, we are going to go over those practice problems today. But before that, let me give you a brief review about the last part of unemployment. It's about the three types of unemployment. Please look at the current slide. All right, you see here the three types we talked about last week. The first one is frictional. Let me just use this mode so I can write something. All right, the three types we talked about last week. The first one is I use like highlighter or something, right? So let me just use another color in case there is some confusion. So the first type we talk about is the frictional. Just remember this is the break between jobs unemployment. And the second type, structural unemployment, based on our textbook, it is caused by the changes of structure of labor market, mostly because of government regulations on labor market. Right, the last one, very different one, cyclical unemployment. It is caused by the business cycles of this economy, right? And also remember there is another way to separate unemployment, long run and short run unemployment. And here in this chapter, we focus on the long run unemployment. That's the natural unemployment. So we can have a natural rate of unemployment. You can think it as the normal rate of unemployment. Normal or natural means no matter how the economy is doing, good or bad, there is always unemployment in the economy. So this unemployment comes from the first two types, frictional and structural unemployment. So the sum of frictional and structural that gives us the natural rate of unemployment. But how to get the number for cyclical unemployment? Please remember, we didn't get the number of cyclical unemployment by calculation. We get the number for cyclical unemployment based on the comparison between natural rate of unemployment and the actual rate of unemployment. Here, the actual rate of unemployment, remember we talked about, we can calculate the actual rate of unemployment based on this formula, just the number of unemployment over the number of labor force in the economy. So the difference between the natural rate and the actual rate, that's our cyclical unemployment. So look at the numerical example here. Right, we know here the natural rate is 6%, and if the actual rate is 8%. So the difference here, the actual rate is 6. Here the actual unemployment rate is 8. That means the cyclical unemployment is 2%. So positive unemployment rate seems okay for us, makes sense. However, for the next example, all right, the actual unemployment rate is only 4%. However, the natural rate here is 6%. That means we have a negative number of cyclical unemployment rate. So the meaning of this negative number, it means all right, this economy must be doing so well currently. So more and more people got jobs. Therefore, the unemployment rate here is a negative number. So remember, we also have this figure. Try to make it more impressive for you because this is very important. Like when we talk about unemployment. So the blue line here shows you the natural rate, which is the sum of frictional and structural unemployment. And the red one shows you the actual rate of unemployment. So you see, there will be a difference between the red and the blue. So for the here, green arrow, I put here. We have a positive number for cyclical unemployment rate. That means this economy is not doing so well at this time. So we can say it's during a recession, then we have a positive number for cyclical unemployment. And similarly for the orange arrow here, right? The cyclical unemployment rate is smaller than zero, negative number, just as I have explained. It must be this economy was doing so well at this time. Therefore, fewer people got unemployed. Therefore, the cyclical unemployment rate is smaller than zero. All right, so that's the quick review about the 3 types of unemployment. And together with the review for the natural rate of unemployment. So let's look at our practice problem. Actually, these practices here, just most of them, just straightforward calculations. So let's see, I would like to use blue. So let's look at the first one. Right, the unemployment rate is 6%. Right, if not specifically mention what kind of unemployment rate in the question, usually it means the actual unemployment rate, right? So 6% for the actual unemployment rate and the working age population. Again, quick review. Working age population, you can also call it adult population. Right, 60 million, the total labor force is 10.4. How many people are unemployed? Straightforward, right? Remember, unemployment rate is the ratio of unemployed to labor force. So here, we know the labor force is 10.4 million, and the unemployment rate here is 6%. You can just do the right? 4. The second question, what is the labor force participation rate? Right, so just follow the definition. Labor force participation rate is the ratio of labor force to the adult population. So we know the labor force here, 10.4 over adult population, 16. Right, part C. Right, this ratio you may not be that familiar because we didn't calculate it last week, but we talked about the definition. This is a positive way to look at the labor market. We are trying to look at the ratio of employment to adult population. So here, employment. So let's see. Total number of labor force is 10.4, and the number of employed, we get it from part A. Oh, how come always? And the denominator here, population. So that's 16 million. Oh, 16. Right, so you can just try to calculate the ratio. Then for next question here, okay, so this hypothetical country had an adult population of about 46 million. Labor force participation rate equals 75%, unemployment rate 8%. How many people were employed? So for this kind of questions, you always try to find the number of labor force first. So here for labor force, you see adult population 46 and the labor force participation rate, 75%. Therefore, labor force, okay, 34.5. Now the question is asking how many people were employed. So we have the information on the unemployment. So we just look at it the other way around. 8%, right, is unemployed. So the rest will be employed. So the answer here should be, I have already done the calculation. 31.74. That means you need to be careful about what the question is asking. For this question, it is asking the number of employed. All right. Then, I have shown you the answer. Let's look at the next.
Okay.
Carrie Maria.
Hi, Professor. Can you just go back to the previous slide 1 second for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm going too fast, maybe.
No, I just needed to write down the answer that you have here. Thank you so much.
Right.
I'm finished.
All right. So let's see the next question here. So it based on the definition. Remember, during the exam, regarding the definition of structural unemployment, please refer to the definition in our textbook. So we need to look at the change in the structure of labor market. All right, so let's see this question. The demand for construction workers increased and the demands for textile and steel workers diminished. Apparently, this is a structural change. For industries, or you can use this word, sectoral change. So the answer here should be frictional unemployment caused by sectoral shifts. So that's based on the definition from our, sorry, you didn't see that part. Oh yeah. It is frictional unemployment based on the definition in our textbook. And then next one. This is the figure for labor market. Sorry. Oh, how come? So let's look at the supply and demand in the labor market. Please remember that the supply here means how many people would like to work. Demand here refers to how many jobs are offered in the market. So for part A, at the equilibrium wage, how many workers are unemployed? Apparently here, that's the equilibrium. So quantity supplied and quantity demanded are equal to each other, 0. Sorry, it should be for the first one. And then if the government imposes a minimum wage, see, the government can try to impose some regulations on labor market. Here the policy is minimum wage. Right, minimum wage is equal to 4. Right, please look at the equilibrium wage is equal to 5. If we have a minimum wage, that means the wage cannot be lower than 4. However, without the policy, the equilibrium wage is 5. So this type of minimum wage, which is below the equilibrium wage, this policy is not binding, will not affect the market. On the labor market. So still the market is in equilibrium. And how about here, the third question? Now the minimum wage is higher than the equilibrium wage, 8. So companies must pay the wage higher than 8. So you see, based on this 8, quantity supplied is 8 and quantity demanded is 2. That means companies are not willing to provide as many jobs as before because of this new policy. There is a gap between quantity supplied and quantity demanded. So this is the shortage. Then the unemployment is here, 6. Ooh. Structural unemployment. So I put the wrong number, right? Will be employed. Sorry. You see, I made a mistake. Why? Because I just assumed the question is asking us the number of unemployed. However, the question is asking here, how many workers will be employed? So the answer should be 200 here. But I still can try to write down this for you. This is the structural. Unemployment. So the number of structural unemployment here is 6 or 600. However, I just omit 100. Right, then the next question, just for you to think about. You can try to think. Usually, it seems to most people that the minimum wage rate, this policy is trying to protect workers. However, you see, based on this figure, you will know if the regulations here try to raise the wage higher than the equilibrium price, then there will be a shortage of jobs. Therefore, employment will be higher. So whether minimum wage can help the workers, okay, you try to analyze. Then let's see this one. Try to apply everything we have learned from this chapter together, mostly on the types of unemployment. Right before we get into the answers. So just based on this slide, let's try to think about which type of unemployment based on each scenario. So the government eliminates the minimum wage, you see? This is a regulation on labor market. So this is the structural unemployment will be affected. And the second one is the unemployment insurance benefit. For unemployment benefits here, this type of policy will lower the incentive for the unemployed because if they stay unemployed, they can receive benefits from the government. So this policy will lower the incentive for the unemployed to find jobs. Therefore, this is talking about the frictional. This is going to affect the frictional unemployment. And for C, new law here bans labor union. Again, that's the regulation on labor market. So structural change in labor market. And D, more workers post their resumes at monster.com. Therefore, more employers can see the information of the workers. In this situation, then it is easier for workers and jobs to match. So this is going to affect the frictional unemployment. And for sectoral shifts, right, we have already had a question regarding this. Based on the definition of our textbook, this is the frictional unemployment. But how about the policy in each scenario? How would these policies affect the regarding unemployment? Right, so let me just show you the discussion here. A and C, remember, refers to policies on labor market. Market. Oh, I didn't notice. Maybe I pushed the wrong key. So thank you, thank you. Now let's see for event D. Right, for this one, then there will be a good match, better match between workers and jobs. So we put down here. We can have a better match between workers and jobs. Better match. So this will reduce frictional unemployment. So D. Actually, for this question, the answer is D. D is the only scenario here can reduce the frictional unemployment. And how about the last one? Scenario E. And for this one, that's the frictional unemployment based on our textbook. And here, sectoral shifts more frequently, then this will cause higher frictional unemployment rate. Right? Then there are some more to talk about. Because in addition to practice calculations, also I would like to try to make some important concept more impressive through these practice problems. Right, let's see this one. Okay, I'll give you say 1 minute to read the entire question through. Try to apply the definition of the 3 types of unemployment. All right, let's discuss this question. So part A, unemployment insurance raises structural unemployment. Of course not. Right? Remember this, we have just discussed. This should be related to frictional unemployment, but the statement itself is correct, except for the type of unemployment. The B, right? Most economists are skeptical, whereas economists have doubts on the unemployment benefits, not because of the poor match between workers and jobs, but because this policy will lower the efforts to find the job. Sorry. Ooh. Okay. Number C. All right, if the unemployed become ineligible for benefits, all right, then just the opposite of the unemployment benefits. If this is the case, then of course, people will try harder to find jobs. So the frictional unemployment rate will go down. So part C is correct. The answer is C. Good. Let's look at the next one. Right. It seems to be a calculation problem. You see here, we just look at the people over age 25, whose highest level of education was high school degree or equivalent. This is a subgroup of population. So we can calculate the unemployment rate for any subgroup of the entire population. Subgroup of population. Oh, sorry. Other than this is a subgroup. Every concept definition the same as before. So for labor participation rate, labor force participation rate. Ooh, what's wrong? Sorry. So we need to find the total number of labor force and then divided by the total number of population. Given the information, the total number of this subgroup here is 59.98. And for the total number of labor force, we also know unemployed and employed. Put them together. $1.93. And the next one, labor force participation rate. Oh, no, sorry, unemployment rate. Remember, number of unemployed divided by labor force. So here, very quickly, just plugging the number. Around 5%, the unemployment rate. It's okay. 0.5. So the answer here is D. Okay. Then for next one, sorry, my okay, I give you 2 minutes. Actually, 1 minute should be enough. Again, this is a straightforward calculation. Try to calculate the unemployment rate. Okay, unemployed over. Oh, how come it doesn't show? Unemployed over labor force. Unemployed, the number is 0.25 million. Labor force, we know the adult population is 4, and the labor participation rate, labor force participation rate is 75%. No? So 8.3%. What's wrong? Ooh. Maybe I have to wait for a minute. Oh. Sorry, my iPad. Yeah, finally. Now the answer is B. For this question, conceptual, but it's about the 3 types of unemployment. So we are, in this question, we are especially interested in this situation, a shortage of job. So this is a situation in the labor market. So based on the definition in our textbook, this should be the structural change. So labor market regulations. So because this is a multiple choice question, you just try to rule out those not the correct answer. So A, B, we can cross out. And for C and D, let's see, structural unemployment. Yeah, okay. Which contributes to the natural rate of unemployment. Yeah, remember the natural rate of unemployment is the sum of frictional and structural. So C is correct. And again, I would like to remind you, this is based on the textbook. For which type of unemployment it is. All right, the last one in this chapter. Oops. Business cycle. Okay. So let's see. Let's try to think about it together. Which one of the following is not an explanation for the existence of unemployment in the long run? Here, to answer the question, the first thing you need to know is unemployment in the long run. It refers to what? It refers to the natural unemployment. All right, which is, the sum of structural and frictional. Oh, I have written this so many times today. Then let's try to look at the options we have. All right, it takes time for workers to search for jobs that are best suited for them. Apparently, this one is referred to frictional. unemployment. And BSC, minimum wage, and the unions, these two are the labor market regulations. So these two will affect the structure of labor market. Therefore, they will be categorized as structural unemployment. And the last one, the business cycle of the economy. This will cause cyclical unemployment. So, which can explain natural rate of unemployment, frictional and structural. Oh, which does not, sorry. Which one does not explain the natural rate of unemployment? The last one, right? Because ABC, they are factors of natural rate of unemployment. So the answer is D. Okay, so that's everything for unemployment. Okay, a very straightforward chapter. Then the next chapter, sorry, chapter 29. Here, the good news is this is another straightforward chapter for me. But here, the important thing here is based on this, we are going to look at a kind of, for me, it's a little bit hard to think because we are going to look at a very important situation from the monetary system. We are going to look at the money creation process. So for me, that is very interesting part. So $1 in the economy, if you deposit this $1 at your bank, then your bank can create money based on this $1 deposits, right? So how does that happen later? For this chapter, actually the first half, or maybe 1/3, just as I mentioned, very, very straightforward. So we are going to look at, right, what money is and the basic functions of money and types for this one. And then we are going to explain what is the Fed. Usually we just, oh, sorry. Okay, I forgot. I didn't play the slide. What is the Federal Reserve? Usually we just call it the Fed in short. And also we will explain the jobs of the Fed. And then here, beginning here, the last two bullet points here, that will be about money creation process. Oh, how come? Money creation. After you understand the money creation process, then you can understand how the Fed can try to control the money, the total quantity of money in the economy. So I guess let's have our first break and then come back at 3:10. Then we begin to look at the definition functions and types of money. All right. So let's have our first break. right, class. Let's begin with the straightforward part. Right, the first job here is to look at the 3 important functions of money. But before we get into the first, I would say the most important function of money, let's look at this slide. Try to picture the situation. Say if you are hungry and want to buy a burger, you just use money to buy the burger, to pay for the burger. However, just try to imagine this situation if no money. Before money was created in the world, how? How can people engage in transactions? How can people engage in exchanges? So the thing here is, before money was invented, the exchange takes place based on something you produce, right? And you can use this something you produce in exchange for something you are interested. Say here, just use meat, eggs, veggies as an example. So use some goods in exchange for other goods. This is the barter system. Before money created in the world. That is to say, if you want to have meat here, you need to find a person who produces meat, and this person is willing to exchange with you. We call this situation double coincidence of wants. So let's move to the next. Exchange of one good or services for another. Just use good in exchange for good. So that's the barter system. And for barter system, each transaction will require a double coincidence of wants. Here, this is very unlikely to happen. Or you can say this is very time consuming to find the person who accidentally have something you want, and this person is also willing to trade with you. So very unlikely to happen. And this is the procedure here is very time consuming. However, this procedure, this searching is unnecessary when there is money. Now you can see the creation of money here. Very, very important. If there, I need to go back to, if there is no money in our world, then all the exchanges, all trade here in our world will be very, very time consuming. In other words, the transaction costs of those exchanges will be pretty high. And maybe in the extreme, there will be no transactions at all. Later, I will explain why it is important for us to have exchanges, to have transactions. So the function of transactions in the market, that's very important. And the money can help people to engage in transactions. Very important. Well, even though I mentioned that money is very important, but you see, I see this paragraph from Benjamin Franklin. Right? Money never made a man happy, yet, nor will it. Okay, you can have doubts. Right? The more a man has, the more he wants, usually. Instead of filling a vacuum, it makes one. Right? Based on this paragraph, Thank you, Micah.
Yeah, it's actually a quote from a song is the funny thing.
Oh, really? I didn't know this song. Yeah, thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. So the existence of money here, just as I mentioned, let's try to be practical. All right. For the hello, then maybe for me it's kind of mental thing, but let's try to be practical. In the practical world, money does help to facilitate trade, or you want to say exchanges. Now you see why it is important for us to have trade, to have interactions in the world, because based on trade or transactions, so people can focus on something they are good at, right? In that case, then everyone just try to engage in something they are good at. So this can raise the economic pie. Oh, sorry. If people can focus on the good or the goods and services they are good at in production, then the economic pie will be enlarged. In that case, in other words, try to use the term we have already learned, the real GDP per person can go up. Then, of course, the standard of living of the economy will be higher. So you see, the importance of money here is to facilitate trade, and then based on higher amount of trade, the real GDP can be higher than the standard of living will be better, will be improved. So to facilitate trade, that's the first function of money. That's the medium of exchange. So with money, buyers can give it to sellers when they want to purchase goods and services. So by doing this, for this transfer from buyers to sellers, then transactions can happen. That's the first function. The second function of money here is money can serve as a unit of account. So you can think it as the measurement unit. Just for example, for US dollars, money, goods and services in the US can be measured in terms of US dollars. All goods and services can be measured based on the same measurement here, measured in the same unit. Easier for us to engage in trade. Okay. Measured in the same measurement. And the third function of money, store of value. So money can serve as a store of value because people can use money to transfer purchasing power from the present to the future. Okay, you can think it in this way. Money is a store of value because money can hold its value over time. So you don't have to spend money immediately once you receive it. You can just wait maybe 2 months, you can save it for 2 years and then you spend it because money has this function, store of value. So money holds its value over time. So once you receive money, you can become a buyer in the future. That's why I put down this. Money can help us transfer the purchasing power from the present to the future. Save money today and be a buyer tomorrow. And to talk about the store of value, of course, monetary assets. That's one way we look at this function, monetary assets. However, money is not the only store of value in our world. There are non-monetary assets, such as stocks and bonds. Just some description part. And here, that's a definition for economists. Wealth, total wealth here. That's a total of all stores of value. So that comes from monetary and non-monetary assets. Put the value of these two types of assets together, that's wealth. So you can try to think non-monetary assets, stocks, bonds, and also I would like to give you some examples like, all right, houses or painting. Or some paintings. Say diamond. Diamond. Right, these are also the example for non-monetary assets. And talking about monetary or non-monetary assets, one more term we need to know. Again, very straightforward. Liquidity of these assets. Liquidity, the definition is here. How easy you can convert this asset into this economy's medium of exchange. In short, how easy you can convert this asset into cash so you can engage in immediate transactions. So here, the liquidity of following assets. Here, let me show you everything. Goes from high to low. And money in here, you can just regard it as cash. Cash has the highest liquidity among all assets. Maybe I should erase this one. Bond stock. Of course, you can sell them to convert them into cash based on some time and monetary costs. And also house monet penny. Wow. Again, sell them usually takes longer time and more efforts. So the liquidity here is relatively low for these non-monetary assets. Right here, just for your information. So the important thing here is the three functions of money. The first one, money can facilitate transactions. So that's medium of exchange. The second one, that's, okay. The second one, I just thought about the third one. The second one will be the unit of account. All goods and services in the economy can be measured based on money. So all goods and services will be measured based on the same unit, the same measurement. right? The third function is store of value, right? So based on money, you can have money today, but buy things tomorrow. So you can just transfer your purchasing power from today to tomorrow because money can serve as store of value. Then let's move on to the two kinds of money, two categories. Right, the first one is commodity money. Ooh. Okay, see the picture. Okay, I have an idea. Commodity money means these will take the form of commodity. We can use commodity as money. And this commodity here with intrinsic value. For intrinsic value means that this commodity would have value even it were not being used as money. So to see the point here, you can just try to think about gold. Gold, even if gold is not used as money, gold has its value. And similarly for silver. And you see for this type of money, we call it commodity money. The commodity itself here with intrinsic value. And once we use them as money, that's commodity money. And one more interesting example for commodity money will be here, cigarettes in prisoner of war camps. Very special occasion. So people can engage in transactions through cigarettes. And also here, barley. Barley is a type of wheat. Here, this could be, I don't know, as far as I know, barley could be the first currency created in the world. Or some people may think shell. Okay, people can also use shell as commodity money to engage in transactions. Right, and here just for your information, right, people can use gold as the commodity money. If that is the case, when this economy uses gold as money, or in other words, people use paper money that is convertible into gold on demand. So for this one, it means the government can print paper money based on the reserves of gold in that economy. Two ways to think about it. Okay, if that is the situation, we can say this economy is operating under a gold standard. However, it's history. So this situation, gold standard is invented in 1816, but you see, gold standard should be based on the reserves of gold. So if the economy does not have enough gold, then no way to print paper money. So this standard was abandoned in 1816 after World War I. And for cigarette, here, just as I mentioned that it's during World War II. You have the prisoners in the camp, they can engage in transactions based on cigarettes. Cigarettes can serve as the medium of exchange. So that's commodity money. And also here, this example in Moscow in late 1980s. It means at that time, people in Moscow, they also use cigarettes to engage in transactions. Why? Later, we will explain this part. So this is the first kind of money, commodity money with intrinsic value. And the second kind of money, fiat money. That's what we usually observe, right? Fiat money. You can think it as official currency in an economy. Right, so fiat money, that's the money without intrinsic value. People are willing to use it as money because of government decree, because of government regulation. In other words, because people believe in their government. That's why they are willing to use this money as money, this was paper or coins as money. So for fiat money itself, it's worthless, except they are used as money. Let me put it here. It's worthless, except as money. So people accept fiat money here because their expectations and social convention on the government. Then we can see just the example I just mentioned. Right, the Soviet government in the late 1980s. Right, the government here never abandoned the ruble as the official currency. However, people preferred to accept cigarettes to engage in transactions. Why? Because they were more confident that it could be accepted during the transaction. In other words, they don't have faith. They don't believe the government at that time. So rather than the fiat money, the ruble, they are more willing to accept cigarettes to exchange for goods and services. That's the second kind of money, fiat money. Well, maybe I should write down another. That's the official. Official because it is based on the government decree, official currency. All right, so let's look at the first. Okay. Straightforward question from our textbook. Right, which of the following are money in the US economy? All right, here, the key word here is in the US economy. So the item here must be used nationwide. Wide. Not just for a small group of people, except nationwide. Right, so per day, US penny. Sorry, let me just add this. To answer the question, please refer to the three functions of money. Right, so for per A, US penny, of course, that's US money. And B, a Mexico peso. Right, that's the money in Mexico, not in the US. Oh, C, a Picasso painting. Right, you may argue that, yeah, some people are willing to trade say, with the Picasso painting to get, say, a car, an automobile. However, just as I mentioned, this must be acceptable nationwide. So C is not a US money. And for D, a plastic credit card. Okay, let's see. Next page. Based on what I have already discussed. The last part. A plastic credit card. Right? Can you pay for goods and services by a credit card? Of course you can. However, credit card is just a way to delay your payment for the goods and services, not the immediate payment. Therefore, a credit card here is not US money. Okay, Rimaria?
Just a question.
Okay.
In the plastic credit card, would the debit card be considered money?
Yes, very good question. A debit card, once you select that card, that amount of money will be deducted from your bank account immediately, right? That means you can use your debt card to engage in the immediate payment. So a debt card can be considered as money. Actually, I think for the maybe next 2 slides, we will go over that part. Right, so that's the thinking for money in the economy. Then based on money, let's talk about this important terminology. Money supply or money stock. Usually economists use this term, money supply. So what's money supply? That's the total quantity of money available in this economy. So the total quantity of money in this economy, then the next question will be, what can be considered as money? Let me show you everything here. So money supply. Oh, sorry. Ooh, ooh. Okay. Wow. And I'm trying to show you how come. Maybe I need to wait for a minute. You see, I'm trying to tell you, for money supply, usually we use this notation. Okay, money supply. So money supply is equal to the total quantity of money in this economy. So what could be money? The first one is currency. The second one is deposit in the economy. So currency together with deposit in the economy. So you can just refer money supply is equal to currency plus deposits. So for currency, here it includes paper bills and coins in the hands of non-bank public, because later you will see the currency of the deposits. Here in bank, we can consider it as deposits. Here, so deposits here, that's the balances in the bank accounts. Well, why do we mention this one? Okay. Depositors can access on demand by writing a check. Or you can think it as this money should be for the savers, the depositors. They can withdraw very easily on demand. So they can, for example, from ATM machine or writing a check. So easy access. Therefore, these two can be considered as money in the economy. Put these two together, that's our money supply, right? And this slide here discussing credit card and debt card. Credit card, just as I explained, this is a way to delay your payment. So it is not money. And for debt card, yes, it is money because you can use debt card to engage in immediate payment. So let me write down here. Oh, okay, just try to know what can be regarded as money in the economy. However, that's conceptually, we can have this definition, currency plus deposits. However, in reality, here, very difficult to draw a line between assets, like money or not money. Therefore, usually here we just use US as an example. Actually, it holds for all countries in the world. There will be various measures of money stock, money supply for any country. And here are two most commonly used measures. The first one, we call it M1. M1 includes currency demand deposits, traveler's check, and other checkable deposits. In other words, M1 includes the assets with high liquidity. Oh, sorry. Easy access. So that's for M1. Then easy to predict that M2, that's the assets with low liquidity compared to M1. So M2 is equal to M1 plus, see several items here, saving deposits, small time deposits, money market, mutual funds, and a few minor categories. So M2, of course, M2, the number of M2 will be greater than M1. Why? Because once you see this, you see assets with low liquidity. Right, and here you can also think that M2 has a broader definition than M1. Let me put it here. Therefore, apparently, M2, the number of M2 will be greater than M1. So for this slide, the point is want to show you that there are several ways to define money supply. And here we just provide you the most common two, right? M1 and M2. And further, actually, here, for the discussion in this chapter, okay, the difference between M1 and M2 here does not matter. Okay, good news. However, you still need to know that there will be different definition, narrow one or broad one about money supply. If the definition is broad, then the number of that type of money supply will be greater. So let's try to look at the definition of money supply again. So this is the money stock, or just as what do we have to say? The total quantity of money. Okay, includes currency plus deposits. C plus D. A very straightforward definition. Just keep that in mind. For the entire chapter, just use this concept. Money supply is equal to currency plus deposits in banks. Then that will do the job. All right, so before I move on to the next one to talk about the Fed, so that's do please help us to fill in the survey question here. Google form again for our lovely Sandy here. I just put it in the text box below. So please try to fill in this Google form. Just survey for our TA, Sandy. And after that, we can have our second break. So please come back at 4:10. Oh, I also need to fill in the Google form. Thank you, Maria. All right, class. Let's continue to look at this very important institution in an economy. Right? Whenever an economy uses a system of fiat money, there will be an agency responsible for regulating or monitoring this monetary system. So the agency, the institution will be the central bank of that economy. So based on this, apparently the important job of the central bank is to regulate and monitor the monetary system and also try to regulate the money supply. So maybe I should put down something like this. Okay, regulate the first job, try to monitor the banking system. And also control money supply by monetary policy. So that's two important jobs of central bank. And you can think the central bank of economy, of an economy is the bank of regular banks. That is to say, regular banks can borrow, can deposit money in central bank. Later, we will go over this part. Right, so for monetary policy, there are several kinds of monetary policy. Here, the central bank can use to control the amount of money supply in that economy. And here for this textbook, okay, we just use the central bank in the US. That's Federal Reserve. Usually we just call it the Fed, right? That's the central bank in the US. So later we are going to use this as an example to discuss the money creation process and to talk about what kind of monetary policy the Fed can use to control money supply. Okay, let's try to look at. To show you everything. Oh, sorry. Right, remember one job of the Fed is to control money supply. And also remember that money supply in the economy is equal to C plus D, currency, plus deposits in the economy. And here, of course, currency are held in the non-bank public, and deposits here are held in banks. And later we will discuss banks can affect the quantity of demand deposits, or more directly, I can say banks can affect quantity of money through money creation process. In other words, banks can also affect money supply, not just the Fed, the central bank. So because of this money creation process, this type of process will complicate the Fed's job in controlling money supply. That is to say, to control money supply, the Fed must also consider the money creation process to take that into account. Okay, now let's begin to look at the money creation process. Just as I mentioned, this procedure here is related to banks. Banks can create money. Whenever I talk about this process, I'm so excited. Why? Because based on this process, you can see it is so amazing, the process here. How come? Usually we think just the government can print money. So usually we think government can create money. But here, based on this process, banks can also create money. Amazing process. Let's see how it goes. So later we are going to look at 3 different cases. In other words, we are going to look at 3 different banking systems. Right? The first 2 are the extreme. The first one is, all right, in that economy, no banking system, no banks at all. And the second one, that's the other extreme. We have 100% reserve banking system. So what does it mean, 100% reserve? That means, based on this system, the banks here need to hold 100% of the deposits as reserves, making no loans. Later, we will go over this part in detail. Now you just keep this in mind. For the second scenario, the second case, banks cannot make loans because all deposits will stay in banks as reserves. And the third one, that's the realistic one. The system here is fractional reserve banking system. Here, there are several terms. Later, I will explain. The first one is, what does it mean to hold the deposits as reserves? What reserves are, right? And what does fractional reserve means? Here, later we will see. Basically, you can refer to it as, I try to give you a heads up, 100% of deposits as reserves. That means all deposits, just as I mentioned, will stay in banks, no loans made. And fractional reserves, that means the bank just need to hold a fraction of the deposits as reserves. That's the meaning of fractional reserve. So based on the different systems, later we will see how banks can affect the quantity of money. In other words, money supply in this economy. Right before that, I know most of you must be so familiar with this T account. You are the experts, right? T account, right? So based on the T account on the left-hand side, addressing the assets of a bank. Here we just use the T account of the First National Bank as an example. On the left-hand side, that's the assets. On the right-hand side, shows the deposits, the liabilities here. And for the T accounts here, right, deposits are regarded as liabilities to the bank because deposits represent the depositors' claims on the bank. So that's liabilities for the bank. And for, on the left-hand side, reserves and loans. That's the asset because they are funds available to the bank. Or you can think that the banks here can claim loans on borrowers. Therefore, that's the assets for the bank. Just try to think it through. Or here, I want to say, the reserves here. You can think that's the deposits banks hold in vault. So this they are kept in bank's vault. Maybe I should just write down deposits. Deposits kept in bank's vault. That's reserves here. So that's the resources to the bank. Therefore, that's the assets. Okay? And we can also look at this term, reserves, in more detail here. Ooh. What's the definition of reserve? Deposits. You can think that's the cash banks have received but have not loaned out. Remember I said you can think of as that's the deposits kept in vault. Also funds available to banks, that's reserves. So maybe I should use this one. Have not loaned out. The deposits banks received but have not loaned out. That's the reserves. So remember we have three systems. One system is 100% reserve banking system. Based on this system, banks here will keep all deposits as reserves. Therefore, no loans. Right, and for the fractional reserve banking system, the bank just keep here a fraction part of the deposits as reserves. In the bank. And whatever left from the deposits, the bank can use them to make loans. Okay, then more to talk about. Remember we said one job of the Fed is to control money supply. Here, based on the reserve, the banks need to keep. There is a regulation from the Fed. The Fed can set a minimum amount of reserves banks must hold against deposits. By saying the minimum amount, actually, here you can think it as a required amount, the fraction of deposits banks must hold. So we can say it is a required reserve ratio. Okay, required. And then the question we can ask is, why? Why don't we just let the bank lend out all the deposits? In other words, no reserve needed. Right? This is try to play safe in case some borrowers they are unable to pay back loans. However, the banks here can still pay to depositors with reserves. That's the reason why the Fed will require banks to keep some money to pay for depositors' claim. And some banks will try to be even conservative, right? They can try to hold more than the requirement, more than. If that is the situation, we can say the banks are holding excess reserve. Okay, just try to get you to be familiar with this term. So for the required reserve ratio, usually we just, in short, we can say the reserve ratio. Here we use this capital R to stand for the required reserve ratio. Right, that's the ratio of required reserve to deposits. Or you can say there are different ways to express this ratio. That's the fraction of deposits that banks must hold as reserves. And also, you can see it as the total reserve as a percentage to total deposits. So that's the required reserve ratio here. And of course, if banks are holding more than the minimum requirement, then the reserve ratio in that bank will be greater than the required reserve ratio. All right, so let's see. Here, let me go back to the previous slide. Oh, I need to, yeah. All right, let's look at this T account of First National Bank. Based on the numbers here, what is the reserve ratio? Here, so I can put down the reserve ratio here. Reserves is equal to 10. The deposits here is 100. So we can say the ratio in this bank, the reserve ratio in this bank is 10%. All right, just try to give you a numerical example here. Then, sorry, I need to go to reserve ratio. Then let's look at our 3 cases to see how banks can affect money supply. So for the following 3 cases, we need to find for each case. Let's try to see the initial money supply. And then after the money creation process, let's see what's the new money supply. And then we can see whether or not the money supply is affected by the bank. So the first one, no banking system. Here, just list this case here for comparison. All right, so the public holds $100 as currency. So let's see. For money supply, just 100, easy. And, oh, sorry, I'm trying to, ooh. All right, please try to make it as habit. Whenever we talk about money supply, always refers to C plus D. C is currency, D is the deposits. Now in this case, C, ooh, moving too fast. Let's see, that's currency. So in this situation, currency, 100. No banking system, no deposits. Zero. That's why we say the money supply is equal to 100. Right, the first case, easy, just remember, deposits. Oh, sorry. It freezes again. Okay, good. Now let's look at the second system. 100% reserve banking system. Remember, banks under this system need to keep all deposits as reserves. So here we are trying to make situation even simple, as simple as possible, right? So we just assume there is only one bank and this bank can just accept deposit only, not making loans. Why? Because the system is 100% banking system. All deposits here cannot be loaned out. So total quantity of currency, again, is 100. All are deposited. So money supply here is equal to 100. Why? Because here we have currency 100 and all deposited in the bank. So currency equals 0, deposit 100. Then let's look at the T account. Deposits here 100 and the reserves here 100 equal to each other. No loans. So I can say, let me put it in this way. Money supply is equal to 100 if I put down like initially. It means currency deposits, 0. Then after the money is deposited in the bank, what happens will be, you see, I still put down the money supply is equal to 100. Here, no currency, but deposits now is 100. So that's the other extreme. So let's move to next slide. What is deposited will become what is reserved in the T account, just as I have shown you in previous slide, right? Here we have already explained liability and assets of the bank. Then in this case, banks hold 100% of the deposit as reserve. So money supply unchanged, right? Just as I have shown you. Initially, $100, that's in the form of currency. And after depositing in the bank, money supply comes from totally the deposits. However, they are equal to 100 before and after. So in this case, bank do not influence the money supply. Stays the same. Just as I mentioned, the first one and the second one here are two extremes. Based on these two extremes, banks has no way to affect the money supply. So what's interesting part is here, the fractional reserve banking system. For this system, banks can create money. So that's the focus of this discussion. We write down here. Banks can create. Create. How come? Sorry, I'm unable to write anything. I have to wait. Maybe iPad is too hot. My iPad is old. So easy. Oh, banks can create money under this system. And also later I will write you two important assumptions when we do the following analysis. The first one is no cash drain. I will explain what does it mean later. And we just assume the banks here keep no excess reserves to make the situation simple for you to see how the process is going. Sorry, let me do this. I think that's a quick way. Okay. Can create money. So let me. Uh-oh. Too many movements here. I have to do. Oh. Sorry, technical problem. can create money. Let's see if so sorry about this. And let me go back to the writing. Can create money. I don't understand. What's the problem? Bank can create money under this system. Fractional reserve banking system. Right, there are two important assumptions. The first one is no cash drain. That means people will deposit all money. They have all cash. Try to make the case simple. People will deposit all currency at banks. That's the first assumption. The second assumption is for the initial discussion, we just assume banks hold no excess reserves. All right, once you are familiar with the process, of course, we can just relax this assumption. Banks can hold excess reserves. All right, then let's try to look at the situation. Here, suppose the Fed requires the banks here under this system to keep 10% of the deposits as reserves. So this is our reserve required ratio. %. Right, the First National Bank here just loans all out, but 10% of the deposit. All right, that's the initial situation. Once people deposit $100 at First National Bank, then here, that's the T account for this bank. Then just try to consider, then banks just need to keep 10% of the deposit here to be reserves. The rest of the deposit can be loaned out. Therefore, here, this is the numbers after First National Bank loans out $90. Here you can see balance here, loans plus reserves equal to $100, the original deposit. So how to get this? I know the calculations here. Oh, the green one. Right, it comes from the $10 reserves. Here come from 10% of the original deposits. And then of course for this one, the $90 comes from 100 minus 10. The rest of the deposits. Banks can loan this amount out. All right then, let's see. What is the money supply here? Let me move to Money supply is equal to 190. How come? Where does the 190 come from? Please keep in mind, money supply is equal to currency plus deposits, right? So depositors have $100 in deposits. That's the number for deposits, right? And for $90 currency, how come? Remember, banks, out of these $100 deposits, the bank here can make $90 loan. That means borrowers can borrow $90 from the bank. Then for borrowers, totally, they can have $90 in currency. So I can say this is from the initial cash. And here from the loans the bank can make. You can think it as, maybe I should put down something like D plus C, money supply. Okay, therefore totally we have money supply is equal to 190. But most students may think here a little bit hard to think about. All right, how come the loans here can become currency for money supply? You can think as this $90 here is in the hands of the public in the form of currency. Therefore, currency here, the amount of currency goes up by $90 because of the loans. Then the money supply will go up. Therefore, here, banks can create money by making loans. This $90 is currency. In the hands of public. Of course, you can say just in the hands of borrowers. That's okay. The thing here is currency will go up because of banks are making loans. Therefore, let's try to look at what happens to money supply. C plus D, just put things together. Currency 90, deposits, the original deposits. 190. And remember the initial money supply. 100 in currency, 0 deposits. 100. Therefore, money supply increases. Okay, and further you can think, if no loans are made, by the banks, no loans are made by the bank. Remember, money supply stays the same. All right, that's the reason why we mentioned that money supply, or I'm sorry, banks can affect money supply by making loans. Right? Maybe I can elaborate this situation. Right? How did the money supply suddenly grow? Just because of $90 loans? So the idea here again, when banks make loans, banks are creating money. Let's see this from another angle. The borrowers here will get $90 in currency. That's part of money supply, right? And $90 in new debt, a liability for the borrower. So I can write the T account for the borrower. Okay, assets and the liability. Yeah, $90 liability and $90 cash. So that's the debt. That's the currency. Oh, sorry. All right. So the cash here will go into the money supply. That's why money supply will go up in this situation. $90 more than before. Right, so the conclusion here, a fractional reserve banking system creates money by making loans. To be complete, by making loans, but not wealth. Loan, by making loans here. Ooh. Right, that's not all. Here, just the first step of the money creation process. Right, maybe we don't have time to go over the entire process, but let me just show you the second step here. Remember, we have two important assumptions. The first one is no cash drain. That means people will deposit all cash, all currencies. So the borrower here, remember, has $90 at hand. Then the borrower here just deposit this $90 at the Second National Bank. Okay, just try to remind you. All $90 are deposited. This is what we call no cash drain. No cash drain from the money creation process. Well, let's see if I can put drain. Ooh. Drain. Okay, good. So initially, we can see the T account of the Second National Bank. Ooh, like this. All right, depositing $90 and then the reserve will immediately become $90. And then if the reserve ratio is 10%, which is assumed always 10% to make it easy, that means the Second National Bank just need to keep 10% of the deposit, $90 now, as reserves and loan out the rest of the deposit. Therefore, the new numbers after the Second National Bank makes loans $81. So how to get these numbers? Same as before. Here, the reserve ratio is 10%, so the bank here should just keep 10% of the deposits here to be the reserves. That's $9. And similarly here, how much can be the loans? So just $90 times 1 minus 10%. So $81, that's the number of loans. And please keep in mind here, no cash drain, that's the first assumption. And also remember, okay, oh, sorry. The $9 here, you can try to think, no excess reserves. Okay, that's the second assumption. So things will be easier for us to calculate. So this is the second step. Then you got the idea, right? For the third step, you see the borrowers now have $81 at hand. Of course, they can do the same thing. They can deposit the entire $81 at the Third National Bank. So initially, we can see the T account of the Third National Bank looking like this, 81 deposits and 81 reserves. Then based on 10% reserve ratio, you can now here, 81 times 10%, and here it is equal to 81 times 1 minus 10%. That's the amount of loan. And the procedure can continue. Then the borrowers here can just deposit 72.9 into the fourth bank. Again, the procedure continues. As long as banks are making loans, money is created. So you can see we have all the numbers here. Then total money supply in this case will be $1,000. Right, so I think I'll stop here. You can just go home, try to review the process and try to think how we got these numbers. Here, next week, I'm going to explain this part again, and hopefully we can finish this chapter 29, and then at least discuss the first half of chapter 30 about the money market. Here, chapter 29, we just discussed the monetary system. And in chapter 30, when we discuss the money market, we can look at how come the economy will suffer from inflation. Right, so that's everything for today. Any questions? Okay. If no further questions, so goodbye, everyone. Have a nice weekend.